Welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute devotional podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse. Broadcast from the ever-beautiful Sharonville, Ohio, on the sunny side of Cincinnati. Hey there, friends. Welcome back to Daily Dose Radio here in the Bible Bistro. And I'm broadcasting today from the dining room of the Bible Bistro. I hope that you guys are doing well today. Hey, we're talking about some great poetry here in Psalm 142, but I would like for you to, if you would, go out to Amazon and purchase my latest book. It's called Finding His Way. It's 100 poems inspired by Psalm 119. And I wrote this just for my Daily Dose listening audience. And so if you would, just go out and get a copy. It's available for the Kindle and as a paperback. Today we're looking at verses 3 and 4. When my spirit was overwhelmed within me, then thou knewest my path. Now, that's the first line of verse 3. And you see this begins the problem section. We have his trouble. He tells us about, he said, I went to prayer. This is what I did. I cried. I cried to the Lord, poured out my complaint, showed him all my trouble. And then in verse 3 and in verse 4, we have the problem explained. I was overwhelmed. Well, we kind of get that, don't we? I mean, we feel that way too when we have a prayer like this. We feel overwhelmed. That's one reason why we're on our knees, because we're overwhelmed. Then thou knewest my path. Now, it wasn't that his prayer or his overwhelming feeling gave God a clue God knew before. The Lord knows all. And he does all things well. And he does all things good. But David said, it's then that I made this prayer. This is when I cried out to you, when I was overwhelmed. That's why he says here, then thou knewest my path. David is telling us that he told the Lord all about it. In the way wherein I walked, they have privately laid a snare for me. I looked on my right hand and beheld, but there was no man that would know me. Refuge failed me. No man cared for my soul. So here's the problem. He feels like there's nobody there for him. And if we go back to the situation in the cave in En-Gedi, there really wasn't. I mean, he had his men around him, but what good were they? Because they wanted David to kill Saul. That was the wrong thing to do. David knew it was the wrong thing to do, and it grieved him that he even cut his robe. That wasn't right. This is God's anointed. God will take care of him. He'll either bless him or he'll take him off the throne. That's not my job. See, sometimes we want to take things in our own hands, and we have people around us who are encouraging us to do just that. Take things into your own hands. This is God's will for you. That's what the men in the cave were saying to David. The Lord put him here. This is what we knew was going to happen. Take him out, David. And David knew that was wrong. Then on the other side of the coin, there's Saul. Saul wants to kill David. His men don't want to kill him. His men want him to ascend to the throne. His men want him to be king. But Saul wants him dead because Saul knows he will be king. So when it says there that no man would know me, refuge failed me, no man cared for my soul, well, okay. We kind of get that, don't we? His men are there. Saul is there. Saul's men are outside, and there's a bunch of them. David feels like he is a lonely fellow because he is overwhelmed by all of this adversity. I looked on my right hand and beheld there was no man who would know me. Refuge failed me. No man cared for my soul. I emphasize the last line here, or the last two lines. Refuge failed me. No man cared for my soul, because what we're going to see is the reversal of that. He's explaining the problem, and we understand it, and as we examine the text in 1 Samuel 24, I would say he's right. There's nobody else there on his side. But what we're going to see tomorrow is the Lord is on his side, and we'll read those verses tomorrow here on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. I'm David Smith. The music today has been performed by the Bluegrass Experiment. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you next time on Daily Dose Radio.